Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to say Happy New Year. I want to say, we're in 2026 and it is a beautiful time to start new things and to just embrace everything that we have to come into our lives in 2026. I am your host, Sacha Walton, and I want to introduce you to the new platform of what we're doing is Biz Her Way video series, which is our monthly series, and it's a spinoff from the Biz Her Way series on medium.com. So we do have a publication called Her Way. Biz Her Way series is an exclusive business entrepreneurship for women entrepreneurs publication that we highlight and celebrate women entrepreneurs, mind, body, and business. We do have a summit as well as the Biz Her Way virtual summit, as well as the Power Summit, you guys. And the Power Summit is going to be March 25th through the 29th live in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Yes, we're going to the islands, guys. We're going to the islands. And so if you want to get on board, you want to join us, I want you to join us and join that experience. I mean, we are building legacy and we are leading loud, right? So we're leading loud, building legacy. I can't even get it out, but this is the season. This is the year. This is the beginning of everything that we're going to be doing going forward. There is no more imposter syndrome. There is no more, procrastination. There's no more anything. This is the time to set it off. And I want you to set it off with the Biz Her Way Power Summit in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. So you can visit bizherwaysummit.com. That is bizherwaysummit.com to register. Once again, it's 2 months away, and we want you to be there because we are not taking notes. We're taking action. This is going to be a mastermind style experience, all hands on. We're going to be developing apps. We're going to be starting businesses. If you wanted to get started in government contracting, we're going to be helping you set that up. Content creation, live on the spot. You're walking away with assets. We got a book release. We have a award ceremony. We have everything. And then you can also nominate a women entrepreneur as well. So definitely visit www.bizherwaysummit.com for more information and to register. And so I have a wonderful guest tonight to kick off our video series. And she's going to introduce herself soon, but her name is Martiesa Smith. And I'm going to bring up after we have this one message to share with you guys. All right.
Welcome to Tech Her Way, a suite of powerful apps designed to put women at the center of government contracting success. From market intel to compliance tracking, we built it all to work together.
Our publication on medium.com, and she is our Biz Her Way cover girl. I'm going to bring her on. Hey, Martiesa, how are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. Yourself?
I am well, doing well. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year to you. And thank you so much for being on the Biz Her Way video series. Being our first guest, actually. We're kicking this off new this year, and you're our first guest. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
You're welcome. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just set off this interview because I don't want to take too much of your time, but I know that you have a lot of great things going on in your world and in your life and your business and everything. So before we get started, let me ask you this question. For those who are just now meeting you, who is Martiesa beyond the titles and the degrees?
Yes, beyond the titles and the degrees, Martiesa is a purpose-driven educator, an entrepreneur, and I advocate for those who work and sit at the intersection of education, mental health, leadership, and equity. I represent commitment to empowering individuals, especially women and underserved communities, to recognize their potential, embracing a growth mindset, and overcoming barriers through education, mentorship, and an inclusive practice. I am a mother of 3 adult men, and I am a grandmother of 8, 1 girl. So I have 7 boys and 1 girl. And I'm a football mom, a football grandma, and I love sports.
That is awesome. Grandmother of 8. Oh, I just started my glammy era. I have one grandson. So yes, I'm the glammy. I yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of those to be like, okay, Mimi, Gigi, Glammy, no, like I'm in that world. Well,
Welcome.
congratulations on all your success and your family growth and everything that keep you busy. I'm quite sure being the mom of all boys, and you have
Yeah.
7 grandsons. You said,
Yes.
oh
7
wow.
grandsons and 1 granddaughter out of a total of 8.
Oh my goodness, that is such a blessing. So congratulations to you. All
Thank
right,
you.
so let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with this one question. Take it a little bit more deeper. Now, you live by this very special mantra. We listen, we understand, we teach with purpose. Where did that philosophy come from, and why does it matter to you?
That philosophy came to mind when I started working with special education. And
Mhm,
so to be able to work in that population, one, we had to learn to listen.
mhm,
We had to learn to listen from the different ways they communicate because not all of the individuals that I work with were verbal. So it was more than just listening with my ears, but also listening with my eyes.
mhm,
Um, and then the part of it where it says we teach, that came into play with them teaching me and me
mhm,
teaching them. So I gained um, the momentum of I can stand up and teach and I can sit down and be taught. Because in that population, you have to learn to be taught by those individuals to be able to teach them to be successful in the end.
mhm. Wow, that's good. Now you mentioned something that was so different and unique. We listen with our eyes.
Yes.
Let's get into that a little bit because that is so different. When we talk about communication and, people think, okay, we listen through action, we listen through, words or nonverbal type of things like when we're really comprehending. So listening with our eyes.
And when I say listen with my eyes, because of course, when we listen with our ears, we're hearing
Mhm,
what someone is saying. But listening with our eyes is where we're doing the visual. Because
mhm,
again, not everyone is verbal. So in
mhm.
order to communicate with those that are nonverbal, we're putting our eyes on them. So basically we are learning them through the lenses of them and ourselves. So that's where the term listening with our eyes come into place because I am reading the body language in order to be able to communicate with the individuals.
Yeah, that's really good. I like the way you have really placed that, listening with our eyes,
Yes, ma'am.
sharing that. Now, take us back to the beginning. Like, what moments in your life or career led you into education, mental health, and advocacy work?
To be honest with you, when I first got started into this environment or into this field, I was pretty much really all over the place because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. When I graduated high school, I wanted to be this accountant, go to school and get my CPA, get my degree, get my CPA, and go that route.
Mhm,
And the more I thought about it, I was like, how do this allow me to help individuals?
mhm,
And so I kind of dibbled here and dabbled there. And I was like, you know what? Psychology is very interesting to me.
mhm,
So, of course, I went and got my first degree in psychology and addiction counseling. So, I was working with those who had mental health and they had the addiction. And of course, we know addiction can be a lot of things. You know, most of the time when we talk about addiction, we always look at the fact that it has to be drugs and alcohol, but addiction is very big. And
yeah,
so that was my first step into it. And I was like, I think I'm gonna like this. So, I furthered my education and I continued and I worked in, different settings with different races, culture, you know,
mhm,
uh, learning different cultures and how things function for them and work for them and the why did you do this? Why did you do that? What brought you to this? And
mhm,
so as I started chasing the why, um, I think that's what drove me further and further to educate myself
mhm,
in mental health field. Um, and then honestly, I got into education. Not that I wasn't doing education already, because you educate, in the mental health field. But once my last son became a senior in high school, I was like, I'm going to work hard, smarter, not harder. So I went to education. And of course, I had the background with behavior. So that's where, when I got into education, that's where I was placed. And, I was like, well, if I'm going to be in this environment, I may as well become a certified teacher. And so that's what I'm pursuing at this point. And so I gained the like for working with the special population, And I honestly, I think those are the most underserved individuals in education. I chose to go into that environment because I was like, there's a connect, with me being in this environment. And I started doing that in 2022, and I love it.
That's good. That's good. Now, being in that environment, like what patterns did you see or any gaps that made you say or think, something needs to change? Like what led you to start wanting to make a greater impact?
I would have to say what led me or what drove me to want to research further and further in the environment was the lack of those students being able to be out in population with everyone else. It was more of a seclusion for them, like they were excluded, but yet included. And so that's what drove me, because I was like, okay, these students are not getting the same as everyone else, being out in the environment. When they are doing certain events, they were excluded, but yet they were included, and so I was like, no. I was like, if anyone's going to advocate for them, it has to be me being the teacher in the classroom. And so this is where I started making my voice being heard. Of course, a lot of people didn't like it, but if I'm the teacher in the room and I'm working with these individuals in special population, why not make my voice be heard? Advocate for these babies and let them know that they do exist. So because originally they would make us eat in the classroom. And I was like, well, no, why can't we go to the cafeteria? And, we were given the denials, and I was like, no, I'm doing it anyway. And so we started walking down the hallway, and they walked down the hallway quietly. We got in the cafeteria, they sat at their table. Things that they should have been allowed to do, they were deprived of. And so when I came into the environment, I changed it around. And I was like, okay, if I can do that, then what else is it that I can do to get some changes going on? So this is where I decided to further my education, and learn the research, learn the SPED laws, learn, more advocating for these individuals, and moving forward. And of course, a lot of people are not happy, but hey, I am.
Yeah. That's really good. And it's important for you as the educator and that teacher in the class to advocate for the population of students that you work with. And I'll just say, like, if anybody's watching and they can relate to what we're talking about, whether you're working directly with, a population of students that needs extra care, or you're a business owner or just a woman or anyone is out there to have children who are in that class setting. And, knowing that it's so important to have a teacher to advocate for those students. And just to kind of bring it out just a little bit more, like I know that in our conversation, we do have an article coming out with you in Biz Her Way series. And, you specialize in the multisensory and the students in that population that do need extra care and more attention. So explaining why you are like that is so powerful for you to be that person in the room and advocate. Can you give like an example of how your impact has impacted or helped those students in a greater way?
I would have to say my my presence, for one, has been a change in the environment, but also allowing them to know that they have a voice and that they can speak, and so I allow them to advocate for themselves. And so what we do is we work on social skills, teaching them social skills of how to advocate for themselves, teaching them social skills of how to handle themselves, how to express themselves, things of that sort. And so I would have to honestly say, since being in the district that I'm in now and working in the program that I work in, which is called the BEST, and it deals with behaviors. And I would have to honestly say that I work with about 7 students, And all of my parents, for the most of it, have been very pleased with the work that I've done with the students as far as teaching them the social skills that they need to be able to be in a gen ed setting, in a regular classroom and be able to function and know how to handle themselves, how to advocate and say, hey, I need a break. Can I step out? Things
Yeah.
of that sort. So I would have to honestly say that allowing them to know that they have a voice and they can be heard has been one of my biggest impacts on the positive side, to get these students to be successful.
That's good. That's wonderful. Now, I know we talked a lot about the educator of that because you wear multiple hats. And so you have the
Yes.
educator side. So when did you know that you wanted to go in business? Like you were called to do something more, something greater on a different scope and being that multidimensional woman.
Honestly, I would have to say probably when I was probably in middle school. I always said I
Mhm.
wanted to have my own business. It's just that I didn't know what it was. And then as I got into high school and I had some of my teachers that were inspirational for me and motivated me, then I decided, oh, I want to go do accounting. And after I got into accounting, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is exactly what I want to do. So
Mhm.
then, of course, I kind of started moving eggs around in my baskets, trying to get a feel for what it is that I really want to do.
Mhm.
And so after I kind of determined that I want to go into the environment I'm in, that's when my business ideas started coming into place. And so, of course, social media is a major thing nowadays. And I was
Yeah.
actually on social media scrolling through, which is what I do. I don't comment a lot, but I do scroll through.
Uh-huh.
And I happened to see the offer um, to be able to be a co-author in a book. And I was like, that would be very interesting.
Mhm.
And so I reached out to the individual, Miss Roberts, and asked her about, you know, what it is that we would be doing in the book. And once she explained it, I was like, yes, this is definitely what I want to do. And so that kind of shaped me wanting to get,
Mm.
do the business part of it. And I can honestly say it's challenging, but I love it though. I mean, what
That's
is war without a challenge?
exactly, because when you're going into entrepreneurship, it's a challenge every day, every minute, every hour. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But when you're putting yourself to it, you know what you want. You know the impact that you want to make keeps you
Right.
going so strong. And yes, and shout out to Dr. Heather Robinson with the Educator Rise Volume Two,
Yes.
a book that you are in that is going to be launching
Yes.
soon and coming out soon, and definitely it's going to be available. So people definitely have to get in contact with you
Right.
and to follow you to keep up with what you're doing. And in that book, what would you say? Since we're kind of talking about the book a little bit, what would you say would be the what surprised you the most? Like what pulled out of you? Because something about when you write in a chapter in a book and you may think about it like, oh, I'm going to go in this direction. When you start writing, what was it about it that made you feel so good? Or if there was like one quote or anything that surprised you that you actually wrote?
I would have to honestly say my title.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say the reason I'm using that is because as I started to think about what it is I wanted to write in the book, because she didn't really tell us a topic or anything, so it
Hmm.
was like, what is it that I really want to write in this book, being that we're trying to focus around the DEI. And so
Mm.
my first topic that I came up with, it was about the lens part of it, seeing through their lens.
Yeah.
And so as I started to write the book and I started doing more research, based on firsthand experiences, which is what I was experiencing,
Hmm.
and then just doing some research on some other things that are impacting, you know, um, education. This is where I
Hmm.
came up with the type I have now with um, the we look, we learn, we teach.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, what about this title speaks volume to me? And so this
Hmm.
is where I was able to say, okay, I think with this title is going to make a great impact because in education, what is it that we truly do? We
Yeah.
teach, we learn, and those things of that sort. So that's what I think made the biggest impact when I was able to pull that title out because it actually resonated with me.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I know it's going to resonate with so many other people as they, get their hands on that book and once it comes out. And, just definitely congratulations to you for, moving forward in that, because sometimes it could be like, you get writer's block, you get all kinds of things. You think a chapter is easy to write, but sometimes it's like, what am I going to write about? I don't even know. I mean, it's different from writing a whole book, but it's still like, it can still get you at the
Yeah,
same time. So that is amazing. So congratulations to you and all the other
thank
co-authors and Dr. Heather Robertson for the Educator's Rise book, volume 2. Now, I also know that, mental health is really big for you, mindset and growth and leadership. So how do you stay grounded? In what you're doing, you're building your business, you are an educator. How do you stay grounded and protect your mental and emotional well-being?
Staying grounded is very challenging.
Mhm.
Um, especially when you wear many hats and you deal with different individuals, it can be very challenging.
Mhm.
I would have to say, honestly, my first thing would be praying. Praying and
Mhm.
asking God for guidance and for strength, and listening for His voice to give me that guidance and my strength, and telling me my next step.
Yeah.
Um, Learning to be patient, and I have to give a major, major thanks to the environment that I work in,
Mhm.
with special education, because working with those individuals, you learn patience. And I have to say that I truly learned my share of being patient, and it's continued to grow, you know.
Mm.
Um, Self-care, self-care. Whatever pleases me is what I consider my self-care. If it's just watching TV, watching football, um,
Mhm.
going to the nail shop, you know, listening to music, because I listen to any type of music. I love music. I don't care what
Yeah.
kind it is. I love music. A lot of times I listen for I listen to the beat. I listen to the beat
Mm.
for the words. Um,
Mhm.
just dealing with my grandkids. Uh, going to their games and out there shouting for them and hoorahing for them and some of the other kids. So it's a
Right.
lot of self care there, a lot of discipline. You know,
Mhm.
um, and then just giving our honest to God, because without him I wouldn't even be where I am right now at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. And you definitely got to do that because
Yes, ma'am.
it's so many variables and there's so many things that can just go on. And I know, like as women, that's something we do anyway. We'll multitask. We are the super women in everybody's lives and everything. So if you're not staying grounded, if you're not doing the things to prioritize self care, or you're not meditating or you're praying or giving honor to God, like everything is helps to keep you stable. It's easy to find yourself in a different in a different way, in a
Yes,
different state of mind and so forth. So,
yeah.
and as a woman building something so meaningful, like what lessons has leadership taught you about yourself?
I would have to definitely say leadership has taught me, one, how to focus.
Mhm.
As one of my old supervisors used to always tell me, focus on your focus. So it's definitely taught me how to focus. It's
Yeah.
taught me how to be patient. Um, it's taught me how to be a leader,
Mhm.
And when I say that, more so a leader that is not necessarily heard, but
Mhm.
seen, you know. And at times I speak up when I need to, and I'm silent when I need to, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so I would have to definitely say leadership has taught me a lot about myself, the environment I work in, and about working with others, not just others that look like me, but others of different cultures,
Mhm.
learning their cultures and how they work and versus how I work, and being able to embrace the different cultures of other individuals.
That's really good. And that embracing part is so big. I mean, it helps us to really take us back to what you said in your mantra, being able to embrace, and then all those other things flow out of that because, you're able to really extend in a certain way, you can receive in a better way and so forth, and how important that is. So it's really good that you touched on that. Now, since we're on that part of it, the embracing and all, and with our platform, Biz Her Way, we empower women entrepreneurs, mind, body, and business, right? We celebrate women entrepreneurs. So tell me, How do you intentionally support and uplift other women entrepreneurs, especially those still finding their confidence?
My way of supporting other women entrepreneurs or other women in general is
Mhm.
just giving them that you got this, go for
Mhm.
it,
Yeah.
um, don't stop until they tell you no. But you want to hear that no from somebody who has that authority, not someone who has tried it and they received the no, so they're passing the no along.
Mhm.
Let them know that everything's going to be okay. Nothing happens overnight. Success definitely doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to put some sweat and some tears into it and some writing it down and tearing the paper off and throwing it in the trash and writing it down
Mhm.
again. And when you look at the trash, you have 50 million pieces of paper now because you've started over and over and over. But just
Yeah.
keep going. Don't give up. You know, um, know your limits. I would tell
Mm.
anybody, know your limits. Know when you need that break. Know when you need that self care.
Mhm.
Not stressing over something that you cannot control. You know, you know, make your circle and everything in that circle you control, and everything outside of that circle you don't
Mhm.
control. Stress over it. You know, just encouraging them and telling them to keep going. I'm here to listen to you. If you need to listen to me, if you need to cry on my shoulder, if you need me to pat you on the back,
Yeah.
I'm here. I tell other women, when you and I talk, your business is not show business. So I'm definitely not gonna put it out there for someone else to know. I'm allow
Yeah.
you to, you know. But I just want, I just tell them, just keep going. It
Mhm.
looks hard right now, but eventually it will pave the way to where you're going to turn back and look back and say it was well worth the journey.
Yes, yes. That's awesome. That's awesome. And and the biggest part, like you mentioned, in order to keep going forward and know that you can look back and say, hey, it was well worth the journey, is to just get started and don't give up. Like, you have to continuously keep moving.
Right,
If you feel faint, if you feel like you just need to step back, like you said, taking care of that self-care, that's a big part of it. Sometimes it is stepping back, it is having that quiet moment. It's just saying, look, you know what, no calls are being answered today. The email is going to have to wait, because your mental health as entrepreneurs and as women, it really does make a big difference. Like you
yeah,
said, for you, you have your educator, you are a business owner, you have a family, you have grandkids, you have everybody that you have to balance your life for in
right,
order to experience so much out of everything in a great way.
right,
Being able to really share what you just mentioned to the women in the audience that are listening is very, very profound, and so important. And and also it shows how you're staying grounded, for yourself, and how you pour into others as well. So I know that you have mentioned your beliefs. Now, are there any quotes or affirmations that stands out for you to keep you going that you can also share with our audience?
yes, yes. And there are a couple of quotes that I like to balance around or bounce around every day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it depends on how that day is. When I wake up, this is the quote that I'm going to use. But I think the biggest one, or the most one I like to choose, is it says, every challenge strengthens my vision and sharpens my leadership. That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
ones I like to use, because leadership is just not working in a school area. Leadership is when you can go out and give some guidance to someone.
Mm-hmm.
That person may not be directly related to you, but you can still give them guidance. That's leadership. you
Yeah.
know Encouragement, that's leadership. And so that's one of the ones I like to use every day, and that's just for my self motivation. you know
Yeah.
um I also like to use the one, of course, going through school and graduating. I always like to use the one that the tassel was worth the hassle. Because
Mm.
when you get on that stage and you walk across, you shake that hand, walk across, and you get that degree in your hand, it's like, this tassel is definitely worth the hassle. With everything you have to go through, whether it's writing papers, taking tests, doing practicums, whatever the case may be, it's a hassle. So once
Yeah.
you can take that tassel and flip it to that other side, you're looking at the fact of, yes, this tassel is definitely worth the hassle. And so this is where I look at that part of it, is saying, hey, in anything you do, always put yourself first and look at the fact of how can this benefit me or how can this impact me? And that should help
Mm.
you make a decision moving forward.
Oh, awesome, 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 great points. Then before we close out, I want you to, share with us like what's next for you. Is there anything you're
Great
currently
question.
working on?
Yes. So currently, I'm at the end of my first doctoral degree,
Ooh,
a PhD in
congratulations.
clinical psychology. So I'm at the
Okay.
end of that degree.
Mhm.
And I have just now got accepted into my second doctoral degree into
Mm.
educational leadership, which I will start in the summer of May of 26. And so just being me, embracing me,
Mhm.
starting to do things that I knew back when my children were growing up and I was putting them through school that I couldn't do.
Mhm.
Or it's not that I couldn't do it, but I chose to put them first and make sure they were taken care of and then, bring me in. And so that's where I'm at right now. Outside of that, just still trying to be that encouragement to other young women, let them know, hey, the sky's the limit. You have to, if you want it, you can definitely go get it. I tell everybody, every day you wake up, you have a chance, a choice, and an opportunity. Go out there and get it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you so much for sharing that because I mean, it is. It's all about the choices. It's all about taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of us. And, even if it doesn't look like an opportunity, still going forward and making it an opportunity.
Right,
Sometimes we look for things to come our way, but then sometimes it's all about what we're going to make happen. What
right,
doors are we creating, not just opening
right.
or will be open for us. So,
Yes,
thank you
ma'am.
for sharing that. Now, one last question. Promise you, one last question. Before we definitely go. So this is for our audience. What would be the one message, the one truth they can carry with them after this conversation? What would it be to close us out with?
I would have to say the one truth that anybody could carry is always put God first. Put God first. Lean not on your own understanding. Once you pray about it, allow God to pave that way for you, and just be the best you can be.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And where can people find you? Like when you're on social media, how can they contact you?
Yes, I am on Facebook. I am on TikTok. Um, I'm not a big social media person, honestly. But hey, I do have my business and they can contact me at the phone number that's linked to my business, which is 979-479-1887.
Good, good. And now I will have your links, your social media links in the notes, everyone. So when you see this episode and you have resonated with our conversation tonight and you want to connect with Martiesa, just click the links in the notes in the bio and connect with her. She has her number, her business number, so definitely call. You want to set up some time to, if you're another educator working in special education and or you're a woman that needs to have a little bit more insight in the ways that she can help you through leadership and self-care and mental health, definitely connect with Martiesa. So Martiesa, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. All right, and everyone, and thank you for listening and tuning in to Biz Her Way video series. Once again, we will be coming to you with video series monthly and with new guests every month. And definitely check us out on medium.com. It is Her Way. It is our publication and it's the Biz Her Way series. And we're highlighting and celebrating women entrepreneurs. All the information will be in the links and you can connect with us. You can also Google us and find us. Everything, we're everywhere. And once again, I am your host, Sacha Walton. Gutierrez. And thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Biz Her Way video series. See you next time.